Welcome back for another of our music PEI series. It's the Road to Music Week 2025, and today's guests are from an outfit called In Echo. Welcome to you both, Carson and Tom.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
First of all, just as a courtesy to people that are tuning in that are not already familiar with you, the band is actually a trio. We'll give a quick reference to your absent member today. She couldn't be with us. Do you want to maybe give a quick shout out to who she is and what she contributes to the band, and then maybe we'll get a little bit into each of you individually?
Yeah. So Tuli Porcher is our bandmate. She couldn't make it today. She's working, but she's an amazing five-string fiddler and cellist, and and she holds down the stomp box. She's always in the middle of the stage between me and Carson, sort of keeping us both in check.
Amazing.
Uh, and a really great energy. Yeah. So um, that's
Yeah.
that's what people are missing out on today, unfortunately.
Well, before we get into you individually, then I guess the next thing I could do is congratulate you on your nominations, which is the reason that you were on my radar to have you as part of this series in the first place. So you're up for two awards this year.
Yeah.
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 Entertainer of the Year is one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the instrumental of the year as well, but the reason that I wanted to highlight the entertainer part is because of the description that you had. Uh, for your live performances, I'm assuming I have not had the privilege. I've seen some little clips of you online and I've listened to the music, so I can hear how that would come across, especially in an East Coast environment. But I also noted that you're being critically acclaimed wide and far. So I've seen a couple other nominations outside of the music PEI area as well. And not to diminish a long list of achievements, but the most recent is probably the most notable for general public,
Yeah.
definitely. Uh, Congratulations on a JUNO nomination.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
That's super exciting, but I also have to admit that I don't know a ton about you at this point, and I'm sure that some of the people tuning in, you're new to them. That's amazing accomplishments, and I'm sure anyone that's not enjoyed that success that's been on the show is probably a little envious because that's a short time frame. You've been around for a while, but you're at a fairly short time frame to be that quickly established. Maybe you could individually say how you met and what you brought to this collaboration, and kind of give me an idea how you formed. I do have some assumptions, and I do find that if I ask too many specific questions, I'm going to start injecting my assumptions into every question.
All right.
So give me a little context before I go too far off in the wrong direction.
yeah. Well, I guess it kind of all started. I moved to the island about 6.5 years ago. Tom moved here like a day after me.
Yeah.
Tuli was in school. A good friend of ours, and the original guitarist Jesse Perriard had just come off the road with 10 strings and a goat skin. At the
Okay.
time, there was a great Irish concertina player here that also moved to the island within like a day of me arriving. And I knew I wanted to start a project, so I kind of got tunes started with Jesse, and then I was like, oh, well, Thule has five strings on her fiddle. That's pretty cool. Let's invite Thule over. And then I was like, well, concertina is also pretty cool, so let's invite Garmla over. And we didn't know each other really at all. We were just having tunes.
Hmm.
Just kept having tunes. And then it was sounded pretty good, so we went to the local spot, the BIS, the Benevolent Irish Society, on like an open mic type night,
Hmm.
and tried our. I think we had two sets to our name at that point, and we had a book going around the audience for band names.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah.
anyone could write their ideas. And then a short while later, we ended up at Folk Alliance with 4 tracks recorded and kind of hit the ground running from there. And that was for the summer of 2019. So we had a whole album done by the summer, and that was our first album. Yeah, and kind of hit the ground running. Obviously, there was the pandemic in there, which kind of squashed us.
Hmm.
Um, but shortly after our first summer, Tom came onto the group.
Yeah, so this
Yeah,
whole time Cars is explaining, I'm like their biggest fan.
Okay.
Just like what like going to these
yeah,
gigs where like they don't have a name yet and
yeah.
stuff like that. Um and yeah,
So wait,
Jesse,
if
great
you're
friend.
going,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Jesse's a friend of yours. So this
Yeah.
is, I just wanted to interject for a second. That's the same guy from Null.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's a punk
did you
rocker.
do something to hurt him? Is that what turned him dark? Because I know he wasn't even into that scene until he was with those boys.
Well, if you kind of like dissect the trad rhythm guitar playing,
Yeah.
definitely some crossover.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and
for sure.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
and
got that in his right hand.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's some punk rock that's always been in there.
yeah.
So you're all connected like in that scene. So I'm just trying to get a vision for it where I
We're
don't
not in
spend
the
enough
metal
time there.
scene,
But as outside
but yeah,
the scene that Jesse came from that you're
yeah,
both a part of, then
yeah.
there is a collective of people over there. So I have to ask before you get back into your piece there with the school piece for is it Thule?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it Holland that she's at? Is she going to
Yeah, well,
Holland?
so we all went to Holland College.
Okay.
Um, Sort of none of us were in the same year, but
Yep.
sort of brought us all around. Yeah.
It just seems that has been common in all the
Yeah.
interviews. So I like
Yeah.
to find the common threads to kind of see where the scene's coming from.
Well,
But
Yeah.
I actually met Jesse in school.
oh, perfect.
Yeah, I had moved back home for I think almost 5 years.
Yeah.
After graduating from SOPA, I moved back home to Ottawa. But that's where I originally met Jesse. He was the year below me, and we'd always have tunes.
Oh,
That's when
okay.
things was just starting off.
Hmm.
So I moved back to the island to teach fiddle lessons, and that's what I still do for the day job,
Cool.
which is
And
really great. But yeah,
you had an Uber fan ready to step in.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did that switch over go from being on one side to the other?
It was it was so surreal. I mean, so there was a gig that Jesse couldn't do and he asked me to sub for him.
Okay.
Which was yeah, I didn't know that was my on the job training.
Yeah.
I like when I mean I loved the album already, the In Echo album, and so I was like, okay, now I have to learn everything on it. And sat down and just like, really got detailed and worked hard. I learned everything in the wrong tuning. I thought Jesse only used one tuning, but he was like changing tunings every set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, um, but yes, just buzzing. And then after that gig, they asked me um to meet them at Starbucks at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. They said, don't tell anyone. Um, and I sat down with the four of them and they were like, um, Jesse's, saying that he just had other plans, he didn't really want to tour. And they were all just sort of agreed to ask me to step in.
Mhm.
Cool.
Um, and
It did help that he was the only available trad guitar player on the album.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel very lucky for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so, where does that name actually come from? Was it somebody just suggested it, and it was like the popular one of the
Yeah.
time, or like does it
There
have
was
a
there was a
does it have a
lot of
mening?
yeah, it's not just two random words.
Hmm.
It does kind of sound like that way. It was actually Jesse who came to the final conclusion of the name. But when we first started, Gormla, the concertina player, and Thule lived in the Banbridge Inn in Charlottetown.
Hmm.
And we would always, that was kind of our main practice spot, just because they were both there and kind of in between Jesse and I in geography terms. So you could literally hear us outside of the inn. So that's kind of the easy way out of in echo. But also like the deeper meaning behind it is that we all in the band, when there was four of us, when there's three of us now as well, we all come from very different parts of the world, and very different traditions within the traditional music scene. It's always echoing all of those traditions and everyone we've learned from, all the sessions we've attended, and that's still very relevant in our playing today.
It's funny. Just before this interview, I was talking with a friend and I guessed like 75% of that. So
Nice.
I just I wanted to hear you say it. So
Yeah.
if he's watching, I'm right.
Well, we
Yeah.
So
we made a bet with each other. It was like,
Is he
what
gonna ask?
is he gonna
yeah,
ask?
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's got to be right up there for top questions
We
when
need a business card with the story on it.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So in the time that you've been doing this, what is it like we're on like year five, four or more?
Six and
Six.
a
Six and a
half,
bit.
six and a
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
Wow. So did you like 6 years ago, like were you thinking like let's really hone our craft so we can win a Juno? Like is that the type of thing you were looking for?
The Juno wasn't even on my radar like last week, really. Like I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, it was like when we put hemispheres together, we're like, well, I think someone suggested like, oh, you're gonna apply for the Junos, right? And it was like, oh, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
do you think we should apply? Yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So definitely it's that's also a common theme with most of the interviews I've been doing of recent time. Everybody's been saying as advice to anybody out there is to just do what
pursue
you're
it.
thinking of doing. Just go do it and see. And it's surprising how far we can get when we actually just go out and give it a shot.
Yeah.
But outside of all of this acclaim, if we dial in a little bit more to what in echo is, you do have a unique sound. Um, I do want to get into like just how it's the buildup of what everybody does individually, but I did find in listening to it, the sound of the recorded versions of your songs, it kind of gives me the vibe of sitting in a theater style environment to listen to it. Like, which I think I could picture sitting at a house party and everyone sitting around having a couple drinks and getting into, especially when you're getting into stuff that's very jig like traditional, like East Coast, Cape Breton type style. But you're mixing it with all those different influences. And just to hear that clean recorded version, I love live music, and normally that's what I'm really out there to see. Like I'd prefer to go watch you play the same song live 5 times than listen to it at home 5 times. But I did find that that sound of the recording was very clear, and I'm not somebody that does recording like that. So I maybe don't have the right technical jargon to kind of dive into it, but who did you work with on the recording?
there's a studio in Charlottetown here called Space Camp.
Hmm.
Um, Jake Charon and Donnie Richard are the masters at that. So Jake produced the album, and Donnie was the engineer. And like beyond dream team for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was at the first East Pointer show and like at least 30 after that.
Yeah.
So to work with Jake and Donnie was amazing. And they really know the exact sound we were going for without even like saying anything. It's what they do. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
Wow.
imagine they bring that they have similar like musical talents, I guess. So they
yeah.
would have an ear for what you're trying to do.
Hmm.
So it's seems like very fortunate that you're all in the same region because the music's not necessarily specific to like Prince Edward Island, and you're all
Yeah.
in each other's orbit, which is it's great. That's another common theme that seems to be going through with all of the Prince Edward Island nominees is everyone is aware of each other and
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably already collaborated with each other at some point or has plans to in the near future. So I
Yeah.
love to see it. So let's get into the sound just to give people an idea of what we're talking about here too. So what do you each individually bring to in Echo?
Go ahead, Tom.
Good question.
What do you bring to enact?
I mean, yeah, I bring my guitar. It's been an amazing journey because the first couple of years, yeah, I was sort of filling a role, but it's really evolved a lot since then. Um, and especially since um COVID is what sort of turned us into a trio because our bandmate went back to Ireland. And after all those shifts, we really kind of dug in and went, okay, like what can we do with three people? And how can this sound? And we've gotten so tight, um, I feel, and sort of my role is rhythm, harmony. I'm sort of like a drummer and a bassist and a guitarist, but it all kind of happens right here. So I have a bass effect
Hmm.
on my guitar. Um, you know, often I'm visualizing like the lower strings as a bass or like the low toms on a drum kit and the higher strings
Okay.
as like the guitar, but also like kind of a tambourine or the cymbals, like the percussiveness of the pick. And uh which like sometimes I get carried away trying to get really fancy with that stuff, but it's a really fun sort of rhythmic, groovy space that I love being in. Yeah.
Do you find that the experimentation part challenges you, kind of motivates you to just keep going? Because there's always something new that you can dream up to try with. Because you get a unique combination there of things to kind of move around. So there's like exponential amount of things that you could do there, and you're finding ways to do it. So is
Yeah.
that,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Constantly inspiring. Yeah. And then whenever, like I get into my sort of rhythm harmony brain, but it's like it's the melodies coming from the fiddles that really like
Hmm.
is driving the whole thing. I'm just sort of how can I mess around with this stuff?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, melody man over here.
Yeah, I guess my role's kind of like the most straightforward is melody. I'm the main melody player. Tuli definitely helps on the melody front, 100%. But I rarely stray from the main melody.
Hmm.
When we're driving the tunes, there's always hits and stuff like that and little vampies. But as a fiddle player, I spent some time when I was back home in Ottawa with another project. I'm just a duo, and I ended up playing a lot of guitar for a while, and I was backing up other fiddle players. And I think that point of my life, I really realized how much I love just playing the melody.
Hmm.
Just driving fiddle tunes. And like my license plate on my car is tunes. Like
Okay.
so yeah, through and through, I'm laying down the melody of the tunes that we do. And most of the tunes that we're playing are original compositions,
Hmm.
uh, which is like a big part of our sound as well. We definitely like we all play loads of old traditional tune, modern compositions from other folks as well. But kind of bringing that original creativity and the tune writing to the band. So you kind of get to you're the first one to really figure out the tune and all the phrasing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Now, I know you're up for instrumental, so I also know that in those genres that you're pulling from, there is a lot of instrumental music, but I am always curious, like, because anyway, as somebody that listens to a lot of music, have you ever, like, while you're writing it, been like, I really want to add some lyrics to this? Like, is there any vocalists in the dynamic here?
We're looking at collaborating.
Yeah.
And in live shows in the past, we have done songs.
Hmm.
Um, but we haven't found songs that really resonate with the three of us.
Sure. And maybe that
Yeah.
fits in a different project anyway, but I'm just
Yeah.
at a curiosity point.
But
You've been around
possibly
for a
in new
while.
stuff,
There
possibly
could be
new
some stuff.
there
Yeah.
there's could be some lines, not necessarily lyrics, but
But I do
yeah.
I do love the instrumental category for us too,
Hmm.
because like we there's this whole tradition that we're a part of, and that includes songs and it includes tunes and it includes dance, and it's this big cultural thing that's like a huge part of what we do and are just like that's our community, that's what we love. But then there's this other thing of like instrumental music specifically, which branches into, other genres and stuff like that. But the common thread is like we love getting nerdy
So nerdy.
Hmm.
and just like sitting down with all these like raw musical elements. Um, it's like just looking at like individual notes that make up a melody and then looking at the harmonies that can surround it and looking at the rhythms, and that's sort of what instrumental music can be, is like just like this huge blank canvas for creativity,
Hmm.
that doesn't require a specific message or an amazingly trained natural voice,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
other than what we can do on our instruments.
Another thing, and I've spoken with other just fiddle players, not other instrumentalists. I haven't had a chance to, but for myself, when I listen to a song like with lyrics, I unless I like really, really pay attention, I don't
Hmm.
hear the lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a really foreign thing to me to even backup singers. All I hear is the melody, which generally, very generally, speaking, is quite simple. So like 99% of the music I listen to is instrumental based.
Hmm.
Just that, so I'm not getting the influences from singer-songwriters.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's just me. Tom and Tuli, they hear lyrics like normal people.
Yeah.
I, I digest so much that I'm guilty of not knowing very many lyrics. Like anything that's played in repetition, or like if I'm around an artist enough that I through repetition once again, just seeing them perform, I'll know things. But yeah, the more I digest, the less I seem to be able to recall off the top of my head that
Yeah.
way. So I definitely I can understand in context how it kind of veers away. Like I definitely don't sit and think of lyrics to add to a song like that. So yeah. Now I did want to ask too that with all of these nominations, I know that winning them definitely opens new doors for you, but even not having known whether or not you win them yet, there's new doors open because just the nomination alone is recognition. So I'm curious, it's early in 2025. Do you have plans for the rest of the year that are already in motion, or is there maybe some new opportunities that are percolating, so maybe you can't talk about it too much?
Well, we just came off of a 3-week retreat in Newfoundland, where we were writing new stuff for the new hypothetical album in the works.
Hmm.
So that's in the works. And if you catch us live, you'll definitely hear us using people as guinea pigs to play our tunes for.
Amazing.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, summer tour. Going to be doing some festivals across the country. We're going to Folk Alliance next week, which is a big event in Montreal this year. Playing our first Boston show right after that,
Cool.
at Club Passim.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, onwards to the summer.
Yeah. Well, and just a few words, gal, is
Yeah, here
just
Yeah,
hop,
yeah.
about
see
yeah.
see what happens. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Newfoundland for recording. So is that because of the label you're working with?
Yeah, well, so yeah, we just started working with a manager
Yeah.
in Newfoundland. Yeah, Nigel Jenkins at Laughing Heart.
Hmm.
And so he's got his management company and label up there in Corner Brook. And
We weren't like we didn't do any formal like for the album recordings. We were doing
Yep.
some demos because he
yeah.
has an in-house engineer and studio, so that was really great. Because we haven't been able to do that before.
Hmm.
Kind of get into the studio before actually getting in there for the actual album recording.
Cool.
So yeah, get to kind of fine tune some tones and stuff. Um, but yeah, it was because Nigel's there, so we got to
Yeah.
hang out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Everything he seems to touch over there seems to do quite well. So he's
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
there's
Excited for
some
that.
screening involved. I'm sure he's picking very carefully.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's notable as well. So congratulations on that, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
I know that you watched at least one of the interviews that have been out already to the public. So you may have seen that towards the end, I've been asking all of the Islanders, since I'm from Nova Scotia myself, I will be spending a lot of time over there this year. So I'm looking for suggestions for myself and maybe some other tourists that things that we're not going to immediately know about from traditional tourist spots. Uh, they're classics, so everybody knows about them and they're definitely going to go to them anyway, but maybe some off the beaten trail. I know there's a lot of small communities, so there's got to be a lot of venues, maybe some little pubs and some crawl spaces or eateries that are around. But I've been asking for a couple, but maybe I get one from each of you.
Yeah. Well, I'm very happily married to my wife, who is the chef at Leonard's Cafe. Hands down the best breakfast or lunch you'll ever find on the island. Um, the busiest, if not very close to the busiest restaurant on the island, right downtown Charlottetown. So yeah, Leonard's Cafe for me.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to mention Leonard's if he didn't, and not because,
Yeah.
I'm not biased. Well,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm a little biased. We love Kim, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean,
Session.
another thing is, yeah, the old Triangle on Thursday nights. That's the session that we are often hosting,
Hmm.
um, and hanging out playing tunes.
There's a little shout
Um,
out to them in our Juno post.
yeah, yeah,
Had it not been for the storm last night, we would have been there celebrating.
yeah.
Ah, there you go. Perfect. So
Yeah.
it's a nice little haunt for the band itself.
Yeah, and for it's the sessions are for the musicians,
Hmm.
and then it happens to be in a bar, so it's like
Yeah, yeah.
great for everyone to be able to enjoy some music, but it's also great to have this space to hear like these are tunes that we just love playing.
Yeah.
It's a community thing.
Yeah, and there's like all ages attend the session. I have some young students that come, they're in the early teens, and then there's some older folks that come. There's us in the middle. So yeah, it's great. It's a great community.
And now for anyone that is going to be fortunate enough to join all of us over for the Music Week events themselves, what do you have in store for people to attend?
The Out Loud sessions
Yeah,
at the Guild.
Wednesday, March 5th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Definitely keep an eye out for that. I'll probably be somewhere there in the crowd, or you might even see my head popping up closer to stage with a camera if I'm fortunate enough to get in there. So I'm looking forward to that. But for anyone that's not fortunate enough to join us, where should they follow in Echo to keep up with what's going on for the years ahead?
All the places. We got the Instagram, we got the Facebook, we're TikToking now. We're doing quite well on TikTok, actually. Quite happy with that.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't touch it, but I let I let them.
yeah, Tom's
There,
in the video.
there's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
an
I'm in the
East
video.
Coast shift since I've been
Yeah.
Yeah.
doing this. At the beginning, there wasn't enough of us on there that we were getting any traction for anything really. But I
Mhm.
think in the last few years, I mentioned someone the other day, I've had more new followers on TikTok in the last year than I did in the first couple years using it, and I haven't posted anything.
Yeah,
Oh
we've
yeah, yeah, it's
surpassed our
amazing.
Instagram followers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's
And it's yeah, it's different. What we post on there is just like what you'd hear at the session on Thursdays.
cool.
Like it's just we're just playing tunes. Whereas our Instagram and Facebook is more like this is us as a band
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of you get different stuff. We're on YouTube. We got a lot of videos, live videos, studio videos on that, and then on all the streaming spots. We're on the Bandcamp, obviously.
We have a website.
Got a website. Maybe we can
Perfect.
mail you a letter.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. So I definitely recommend anybody out there follows you guys, and anybody that hasn't already subscribed to East Coast DNA, please do so. The more people that are out there sharing and subscribing, the more traction we get for artists like in Echo to get more and more exposure and bring a big spotlight on our region. So it's a win-win for everybody. So please contribute where you can. And once again, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in person. So we'll be over there soon. And thanks again for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out and
Yeah.
having us.
Thanks, Darcy. This was great.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good one.